So here we are again. Madeline is acting as the novice. Um, there's lots of tips and tricks to help students, especially beginning students, get the first part of how to cast and how not to cast. And the first trick that I picked up, I was taught to by a bunch of Girl Scout troops that I was helping, trying to explain the hand motion of stopping your hand way up there. And what they told me to do, I'm going to take your rod, and what they told me to do is high five and high five. Now, is your arm going this way? When you're casting, do a high five. And then and once you practice that, you have an idea of high five, high five, high five. There you go. That's one way. Another problem with students, once you do a big wide loop, is the big wide loops that they do. So a couple ways to fix that is, yep, Madeline already is there. One way is to use their sleeve to tuck it in there, and that'll sometimes keep their arm up. So that's a handy tip. Another tip is to make sure, go ahead, keep your hand on there. Make sure that they can always see their thumb. And that's another way. That's another way. That's a good one. Another way to keep them from the big back cast is to stand right behind them and say, okay, now cast. And they typically will be more careful about hitting their instructor in the face. But that's a good one. They'll be more aware of what's behind them rather than the big wide casts in the back. So that's a good trick. The other problem you have is sort of gun it at the very end, like how they typically will do it. And then of course it all piles up. And again, the way to solve this is to stand in front of them and then have them cast. And typically they're afraid to hit you.
What am I supposed to do?
Yeah, cast.
Well, I am casting.
There you go. There you go. And that'll typically just keep them from that slamming the thing down at the end. What are some other ones that we do like that? I know there's one of a paintbrush. We can use a paintbrush. Imagine you're flicking paint off of a paintbrush.
Yeah, that works.
That's kind of like, yeah, sometimes you get a little bit of a tailing loop that way, but that's a good one also.
Another one is that they knelt.
Oh, kneeling on the ground helps. So that's a good one. So, Madeline's demonstrating right now with her white pants. Okay.
My white pants.
Okay, but that's another way to keep them from the big thing. And there's a million other ways of doing it. You can keep your arm, go ahead, cast, and you can just keep your arm up here so that they try not to hit it.
Oh.
Yeah, you're supposed to try not to hit it. There you go. And that'll keep them from going back and down, back and forth. Sometimes videotaping is a good way.
Which is really hard to do.
Which is hard to do, or videotaping, whatever we call this nowadays. Another technique that I use with intermediate students is I have them watch across to the novices and have them explain to me why the novices aren't casting well. And then that's a good way for them to integrate some of if you can correct mistakes, then you learn how to fix them yourself, and that's kind of an important thing. So that's just some quick tips and tricks that we learned over the years.
Yep.
Right?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Agree with me always.
I agree.